Hello, little ones. Welcome back to the Wise Owl, where magical stories fly in every night. Today, I have a classic tale that teaches us about manners, respect, and porridge. So snuggle up and let your ears perk up. It's time for Goldilocks and the Three Bears. It was a bright and sunny morning in the middle of a peaceful forest. Birds chirped in the trees, and soft sunlight streamed through the windows of a cozy little cottage. Inside, three bears were getting ready for breakfast. There was Papa Bear, big and strong, with a deep voice. Mama Bear, kind and gentle, always wearing a sweet apron, and Baby Bear, small, playful, and full of giggles. Mama Bear had just finished cooking 3 bowls of delicious porridge. "Ooh, careful," she said. "It's still very hot." Papa Bear sniffed the air. Smells great, but it'll burn our tongues." Baby Bear tiptoed toward his bowl, but Mama Bear gently pulled him back. "Let's take a short walk," said Papa Bear with a smile. "By the time we're back, it'll be just right." So the 3 bears put on their walking boots, stepped outside, and strolled into the forest, chatting and humming together. Behind them, their little house stood quiet and still, with 3 bowls of warm porridge waiting patiently on the table. But someone else was walking through the forest that morning too, and she didn't know who lived in that cozy house. Deep in the forest, a little girl with golden, curly hair was wandering happily between the trees. Her name was Goldilocks. She had been walking for a long time, chasing butterflies, listening to birds, and humming to herself. But soon, she grew tired and a little bit hungry. That's when she saw it, a tiny wooden cottage, hidden between the trees, with smoke curling gently from the chimney. Goldilocks tiptoed closer. Who lives here?" she whispered. She knocked softly on the door. Knock, knock, no answer. She peeked through the window still. No one. Curiosity twinkled in her eyes very slowly. Goldilocks turned the doorknob. Creak! The door opened wide, and inside she saw the warmest, coziest room she'd ever seen. Right in the center stood a little wooden table, and on the table 3 bowls of porridge, steaming gently, 1 big, 1 medium, and 1 very small. Goldilocks licked her lips. "I'll just have 1 little taste." She picked up a spoon. She didn't know it yet, but this wasn't an ordinary house, and these weren't ordinary bowls. They belonged to 3 very special bears. Goldilocks looked around the cozy cottage. It was so warm, so peaceful, and those bowls of porridge smelled delicious. She stepped closer to the table and saw them lined up perfectly, 1 big bowl, 1 medium bowl, and 1 tiny little bowl. She picked up the spoon from the big bowl. Let's try this one." But when she took a bite, ouch, "It's too hot," she cried, fanning her mouth. She put the spoon down and tried the second bowl. This time her eyes drooped. "Too cold," she frowned. Then she turned to the smallest bowl. "Just 1 little spoonful." Her eyes lit up. "It's just right." So Goldilocks smiled, sat down, and ate up every last drop. Her tummy felt happy now, but as she looked around the room, her feet began to ache. She spotted 3 chairs by the fireplace. Maybe it was time to sit down and rest, but little did she know, she had already tasted something that didn't belong to her. And the owners, they weren't far away. After her warm and tasty porridge, Goldilocks looked around the room. Her tummy was full, but now her feet felt tired. Across the room near the fireplace, she saw 3 chairs, 1 big, 1 medium, and 1 tiny little chair. She smiled. "Maybe I'll just sit for a moment." She walked over to the big chair and climbed up. But oh dear, it was way too high and way too hard. Her little legs dangled, and she wobbled side to side. "Too big," she whispered, so she tried the medium-sized chair. It looked softer, but when she sat down, boo-oonk, oh no, too soft. She giggled as she sank too deep. Finally, she turned to the smallest chair, cute and just her size. She sat down gently, wiggled a little, and smiled wide, just right. She rocked back and forth happily, but then crack, snap, crash, the tiny chair broke into pieces and Goldilocks tumbled to the floor. Ouch, she squeaked, rubbing her elbow. She looked at the broken chair. Oh no, I didn't mean to. Her cheeks turned red, but she was getting sleepy now, and just then her eyes spotted a wooden staircase. Goldilocks looked up the wooden staircase and rubbed her sleepy eyes. She yawned a big yawn. Maybe I'll just take a tiny nap. Step by step, she climbed the stairs. At the top, she found a quiet little room with 3 beds. One was very big, one was medium-sized, and one was small and oh so cute. She tried the big bed first, but oh my, it was too hard. She flopped onto the medium bed, but it was too soft. She sank in too deep. Finally, she climbed into the tiny little bed. It was just right. Goldilocks snuggled under the blanket, closed her eyes, and drifted off to sleep. Just then, the door downstairs creaked open. Creak. The 3 bears had returned. Papa Bear stomped in. Mama Bear looked around, and Baby Bear gasped. Someone's been eating my porridge. Someone's been sitting in my chair. And someone's broken mine. Baby Bear cried. They slowly tiptoed upstairs. Papa Bear saw his bed, Mama Bear saw hers, and Baby Bear shouted, "Someone's sleeping in my bed." Goldilocks' eyes blinked open. Oh. Goldilocks was fast asleep in the tiny bed, snuggled up like a kitten in a warm blanket. But downstairs, things were not so quiet anymore. The 3 bears had returned. They saw the empty bowls, the broken chair. And they weren't happy. Papa Bear growled, "Someone's been eating my porridge." Mama Bear gasped, "Someone sat in my chair." And Baby Bear cried out, "Someone broke mine." They tiptoed up the stairs. Step by step, their big furry feet made little creaks on the wooden steps. They peeked into the bedroom. Papa Bear whispered, "Someone's been sleeping in my bed." Mama Bear frowned, "Someone's been in mine too." And Baby Bear squeaked, "Look, she's still there." Goldilocks opened her eyes slowly, then gasped. 3 big bears stood around her. She jumped out of bed in fright, ran down the stairs and out the door as fast as her legs could go. She didn't stop running until the cottage was far, far behind her. And from that day on, Goldilocks never entered someone else's house again. And so, little ones, Goldilocks learned a very important lesson that day. We must never enter someone else's home without permission, and we should always respect the things that belong to others. The 3 bears forgave her, but Goldilocks never forgot. Because kindness, respect, and honesty are what make us truly good. Thank you for joining me today, dear friends. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to tap the like button and subscribe to the Wise Owl for more magical tales every week. Until next time, keep wondering and keep listening. Who?